Aliens demanded surrender. Then humans unleashed hell. The massive alien ship trembled as another blast hit its shields. Inside the command center, Captain Zarlok gripped the edge of the holographic display, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in distress. The last of their fleet, just 7 ships carrying the remaining survivors of their once great civilization, huddled in the protection of a dense nebula. "Status report," Zarlok demanded, his voice steady despite the fear churning inside him. "Shields at 18%, replied his second-in-command. "The Vorax haven't detected us yet, but they're scanning the nebula systematically. It's only a matter of time." Zarlok nodded grimly. The Vorax swarm had already consumed 7 of their colony worlds, leaving nothing but barren husks. The Zarlak civilization, once spanning dozens of star systems, was now reduced to these 7 ships carrying fewer than 30,000 survivors. "The Council of Elders requests your presence in the assembly chamber," a young messenger said, appearing at Zarlok's side. "They say it's urgent." Zarlok cast one last look at the tactical display showing the menacing red dots of Vorax ships patrolling the outer edges of the nebula. "I'll be right there." The assembly chamber was small compared to the grand halls they once had on their homeworld. The 7 elders, representing the last of their kind, sat in a semicircle, their silver skin reflecting the dim emergency lighting. Captain Zarlok greeted Elder Moltik, the oldest among them. "We've reached a decision about our final course of action. Have we found another place to hide?" Zarlok asked, though he already knew the answer. "No," Elder Moltik said softly. "We've been running for too long. The Vorax are relentless. We cannot outrun them forever." Another elder, Sarven, leaned forward. "We've been analyzing data from our long-range probes. There's a species called humans on a planet they call Earth. They're primitive compared to us, they've barely left their own planet, but they have something we lack." "What's that?" Zarlok asked. "The capacity for warfare," Sarven replied. "Our civilization abandoned violence thousands of years ago. We have no weapons, no defensive technology. But these humans, they're remarkably inventive when it comes to conflict." Elder Moltik nodded. "We've observed their transmissions. Despite their primitive technology, they've developed thousands of different weapons. Their history is filled with warfare, yet they've survived. They're resilient." "What are you suggesting?" Zarlok asked, though he was beginning to understand. "We send them a message," said Elder Moltik. "All our knowledge, our science, our technology, our history. And in return, we ask for their help against the Vorax." "But they're primitive," Zarlok protested. "Their civilization hasn't even unified their planet. They still fight among themselves." "Exactly," said Sarven. "They understand conflict in ways we never have. Our technology combined with their aggressive creativity might be our only hope." Zarlok looked around at the solemn faces of the elders. "And if they refuse? Or worse, if they use our technology against us? Then we're no worse off than we are now," said Elder Moltik. "This is our final hope, Captain. Prepare the transmission." Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her computer screen in disbelief. The signal had appeared suddenly during her shift at the SETI array in New Mexico. At first, she thought it was an equipment malfunction, the pattern was too perfect, too structured to be natural. "Tom, are you seeing this?" she called to her colleague. Dr. Thomas Okafor looked up from his own monitor and hurried over. "What the hell is that?" "I don't know, but it's not random." Sarah's fingers flew over the keyboard. "It's repeating on a precise 10-minute cycle. And look at this structure, it's almost like." "Like what?" Tom asked. Sarah looked up, her eyes wide. "Like someone's trying to teach us how to read their language." Within hours, the discovery was reported up the chain of command. By the next day, a team of the world's top linguists, mathematicians, and computer scientists had been assembled to decipher the message. Dr. Chen found herself at the center of the newly formed First Contact Analysis Team at a hastily established facility near Washington, D.C. The team worked around the clock, making rapid progress in understanding the alien language. "It's elegant," said Dr. Patel, a linguist from Oxford. "They're using universal mathematical principles as a foundation, then building complexity from there. Whoever sent this wanted to make sure we could understand it." On the seventh day, they had their breakthrough. "It's not just a hello," Dr. Chen announced to the crowded room. "It's a massive data package. And..." She hesitated, "It's a plea for help." The room fell silent. General Williams, the military liaison to the team, stepped forward. "Help with what?" "They're called the Zarlak, Dr. Chen explained, referring to the translated data. "They're running from something called the Vorik Swarm. They've lost their home and most of their civilization. They're offering us their technology, all of it, in exchange for our help." "Their technology?" the general asked. "How advanced are we talking?" "Very," Dr. Chen replied. "Faster than light travel. Energy generation systems that make our nuclear plants look like campfires. Medical technology that could extend human lifespan by centuries. Everything they know." "And what do they want in return?" asked a skeptical voice from the back of the room. Dr. Chen pulled up another screen of translated data. "They want us to fight for them. They're a peaceful species, they've had no weapons for thousands of years. But they've been observing us. They know our history. They want our weapons," General Williams said flatly. "They want our capacity for warfare," Dr. Chen corrected. "They believe our creativity in conflict might save them from extinction." As the implications sank in, the room erupted in discussion. National security concerns, technological benefits, the moral implications of helping an alien species, all were debated heatedly. Meanwhile, in her temporary office, Dr. Chen made a discovery she hadn't shared with the others yet. Buried deep in the alien data was something extraordinary, a technological concept so advanced it could revolutionize Earth's defenses overnight. But implementing it would require resources beyond what any single nation possessed. As she stared at the schematics on her screen, an alert popped up from the Deep Space Monitoring Network. Something was approaching the solar system at incredible speed. Dr. Chen grabbed her phone to call General Williams, her heart racing. But before she could dial, another alert appeared. The objects had changed course. They were heading straight for Earth. The fate of two civilizations now hung in the balance. The desperate plea of the Zarlak had been received, but would humanity's response come in time? The emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council was called in the dead of night. Representatives from every major nation sat around the table, faces grim as they watched Dr. Chen's presentation. "These objects are moving at speeds we cannot achieve with our current technology," she explained, pointing to the trajectory map. "Based on the data the Zarlak sent us, these could either be their refugee ships or the Vorik swarm that's hunting them." "How long until they reach Earth?" asked the U.S. President. 5 days at their current speed," Dr. Chen replied. "Maybe less." The room erupted into chaos. Some nations demanded immediate military preparation, while others called for peaceful contact attempts. The Russian representative pounded his fist on the table. "We should shoot them down before they get close. We cannot risk alien invasion." "With what?" the Chinese representative countered. "Our most powerful missiles wouldn't even reach them in space, let alone damage advanced alien technology." The UN Secretary-General raised his hands for silence. "Dr. Chen, you said you found something in the alien data that could help us?" Dr. Chen nodded and brought up a new display. The Zarlak included technical specifications for a planetary defense system. "It's far beyond our current capabilities, but the principles are understandable. With global cooperation, we might, and I stress might, be able to build a prototype in time." "What kind of defense system?" asked the British representative. "It's a shield," Dr. Chen explained. An energy barrier that could theoretically protect the entire planet. But here's the interesting part, the Zarlak never built this themselves. They discovered the concept but lacked the creative application needed to weaponize it. General Williams stepped forward. We've analyzed this technology. If we modify it using human weapons concepts, we could turn it from a shield into a sword. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. We need to make a decision, the Secretary General said finally. Do we help these aliens and potentially protect ourselves in the process? Or do we focus solely on Earth's defense? After hours of debate, a compromise was reached. Earth would prepare for both possibilities, help the aliens if they were indeed the approaching Zarlak, but be ready to defend against the Vorax if that's what was coming instead. In laboratories and military bases around the world, scientists and engineers worked frantically to implement the alien technology. The Zarlak data had been shared globally, with each nation assigned different components to develop. At Area 51 in Nevada, Dr. Chen collaborated with the world's top physicists to build the core of the defense system. The Zarlak understand energy manipulation at a quantum level we've only theorized about, she explained to General Williams during an inspection. But they never applied it offensively. And we're changing that, the general noted, looking at the massive device taking shape. Yes, Dr. Chen said quietly. Humanity's contribution to this technology is weaponizing it. The general placed a hand on her shoulder. Don't feel bad about that, Doctor. If these Vorax are as dangerous as the aliens claim, our aggressive creativity might save two civilizations. In orbit, space agencies from multiple countries hastily assembled defensive satellites based on Zarlak designs but modified with human weapons systems. It was unprecedented cooperation, American rockets carrying Chinese components, Russian cosmonauts working alongside European engineers. Meanwhile, a message was sent back to the approaching ships, using the communication protocols included in the Zarlak data package. We've received your plea. We are preparing to help. Identify yourselves when you enter our solar system. In the refugee fleet, Captain Zarlak received the human transmission with a mixture of hope and fear. They responded, he told the Council of Elders. They say they're preparing to help us. Elder Moltik's 4 eyes blinked slowly. Did they understand what we need? That we need them to fight for us? The message doesn't say, Zarlak admitted. But they've received our data package. They know about the Vorax. Our sensors show the Vorax have discovered our trail, reported a young officer. They're following us toward the human system. Elder Sarven rose from her seat. Then we have no choice but to trust these humans. Order the fleet to maximum speed. We must reach Earth before the Vorax catch us. Dr. Chen was sleeping at her desk when the alarm sounded. She jolted awake as General Williams burst into her office. They're here, he said. The objects have entered the solar system. Within minutes, Dr. Chen was in the command center, watching as the advanced tracking systems monitored the approaching vessels. 7 ships, moving in formation, reported a technician. They're slowing down as they approach Mars orbit. Any response to our transmission? Dr. Chen asked. Yes, we just received this, said the communications officer. A message appeared on the main screen, we are the Zarlak. We come in peace and desperation. The Vorax follow close behind us. Have you prepared defenses as we requested? Relief washed over Dr. Chen. It's them, she breathed. The refugees. General Williams nodded, but his expression remained serious. Send them the coordinates for a safe approach vector. And inform them about the modifications we've made to their technology. As the message was sent, another alert sounded. Sir. Deep space sensors are picking up another group of objects, much larger in number. They just entered the outer solar system, called out a monitoring officer. The color drained from Dr. Chen's face. The Vorax. They're already here. On the main screen, new data appeared showing hundreds of objects moving together like a swarm, heading directly toward Earth. "How long do we have?" General Williams demanded. "At their current speed, less than 36 hours before they reach Earth orbit," came the reply. Dr. Chen studied the incoming data. "The modified defense system isn't ready. We need more time." "Then we'll have to buy some," said General Williams, reaching for the secure phone to call the president. "It's time to see if humanity's talent for warfare can save us all." The Zarlak refugee ships accelerated toward Earth, racing ahead of the Vorax swarm. As they approached, they received the humans' response explaining the weaponized modifications to their technology. Captain Zarlak stared at the transmission data in disbelief. "They've done what? That's impossible. The energy matrix would destabilize if used that way. Unless," said his chief scientist, reviewing the human modifications. "Unless they've reconfigured the quantum resonance patterns. It's unorthodox, but it might actually work." For the first time in generations, a Zarlak contemplated the possibility of fighting back against the Vorax, thanks to the strange, primitive, yet brilliantly creative humans. As Earth grew larger in their viewports, a new alert sounded on the Zarlak command ship. "Captain, the Vorax have increased speed. They'll overtake us before we reach Earth's defense perimeter. The first battle for humanity's survival would begin in space, before the aliens even reached Earth." And no one knew if mankind's desperate modifications to alien technology would be enough to save either species. Earth's hastily assembled space defense fleet, a mixture of military satellites, retrofitted space stations, and experimental spacecraft equipped with modified Zarlak technology, moved into position to intercept the approaching aliens. "The Zarlak ships will reach our defensive line in 20 minutes, reported Admiral Chen, Sarah's brother, who had been given command of the space operation. "The Vorax swarm is 30 minutes behind them." In the command center below, Dr. Chen watched the tactical display with growing anxiety. "The defense system is only at 60% capacity. We need more time." General Williams studied the display. "We'll give those refugee ships cover, then fall back to Earth's orbit where our defenses are strongest." The plan was communicated to the approaching Zarlak fleet. Captain Zarlak's response came quickly: "We are grateful, but we cannot ask you to sacrifice your ships for us. The Vorax are more dangerous than you understand." "We're not planning to sacrifice anything," General Williams replied. "Just follow our lead." As the alien refugee ships approached the defensive line, they were escorted through by human vessels. For the first time, humans laid eyes on the aliens they were risking everything to save. The Zarlak ships were elegant, smooth silver vessels that seemed to flow rather than fly through space. In contrast, the approaching Vorax swarm looked like a cloud of metallic insects, thousands of small craft moving in perfect unison. "They're beautiful," Dr. Chen whispered, looking at images of the Zarlak ships. "Save the admiration for later," General Williams said. "Here comes the enemy." The Vorax swarm reached the outer defensive line and paused, as if studying the human vessels. Then, without warning, they attacked. Energy beams lanced out from hundreds of Vorax craft simultaneously, targeting the human ships. Several exploded immediately, their defenses useless against the advanced alien weapons. "Fall back. All ships fall back to position Omega," Admiral Chen ordered. The human fleet retreated toward Earth, drawing the Vorax swarm with them, directly into the trap they had prepared. On the Zarlak command ship, now safely behind Earth's moon, Captain Zarlak watched in horror as human vessels were destroyed one after another. "They're sacrificing themselves to protect us," Elder Moltik said softly. "A concept our people abandoned millennia ago." "Their tactics are unusual," observed the Zarlak military advisor. "They're retreating in a pattern I don't understand." As the last human ships cleared the area, Admiral Chen gave the order: "Activate the minefield." Hundreds of small, stealth devices, combinations of human nuclear weapons and Zarlak energy technology, detonated simultaneously throughout the area where the Vorax swarm was concentrated. The explosions rippled through space, destroying or disabling nearly a third of the Vorax in a single moment. On the Zarlak command ship, stunned silence fell over the bridge. "Impossible," whispered the military advisor. "We studied the data they sent us about their nuclear weapons. They shouldn't be this effective in space." Captain Zarlak leaned forward. "They modified the designs using our energy containment principles. They've created weapons more powerful than either of our species possessed alone." The remaining Vorax regrouped quickly, adapting their formation to avoid further traps. They continued their pursuit of the human fleet toward Earth. In the command center, cheers erupted at the successful first strike, but General Williams remained grim. "That bought us some time, but not enough. Status of the planetary defense system?" 75%, Dr. Chen reported. "We need another hour for full power." "We don't have an hour," the general said. "Deploy the second line of defense." Around Earth's orbit, massive satellites began powering up. Designed using Zarlak energy technology but weaponized by human engineers, they created a web of deadly energy between them. As the Vorax approached, the web activated. Dozens more enemy craft were destroyed as they attempted to break through. But the Vorax quickly adapted, sacrificing some of their units to identify and exploit weaknesses in the energy web. They began to push through. "They're learning too quickly," Admiral Chen reported from his flagship. The Vorax appear to share information instantly across their swarm. Each sacrifice teaches the others. On the moon base that had been converted into a command post for the Zarlak, Captain Zarlak and Elder Moltic met with Dr. Chen and General Williams via holographic communication. "We need to understand what we're fighting," Dr. Chen said. "You called them the Vorax swarm. What exactly are they?" Elder Moltic hesitated, then explained, "The Vorax are not a natural species. They were created as weapons by an ancient civilization that destroyed itself in a civil war. The Vorax were designed to adapt and survive at all costs. When their creators died, the Vorax continued their programming, consuming resources and technology to grow stronger. So they're basically self-replicating weapons?" General Williams asked. "Yes," Captain Zarlak confirmed. "They consume planets, strip them of resources, and use those materials to build more of themselves. They have no consciousness, only programming." Dr. Chen's eyes widened. "That's why the energy web isn't working as expected. They're not trying to break through, they're analyzing it to learn how it works." "Correct," said the Zarlak military advisor. "Soon they'll adapt and become immune to that defense." General Williams frowned. "If they're machines following programming, can we disrupt that programming somehow?" The Zarlak exchanged glances. "We never considered that approach," Captain Zarlak admitted. "Our people focused on escaping, not fighting back." Dar. Chen turned to her tablet and began reviewing the Zarlak data. "Wait, if the Vorax share information across their network instantly, they must use some kind of quantum communication." "Yes," confirmed the Zarlak scientist. "It's how they adapt so quickly." "Then that's their weakness," Dr. Chen said, excitement building in her voice. "We can use their own network against them." Before she could explain further, an alarm sounded. The Vorax had broken through the energy web and were approaching Earth's atmosphere. The orbital defense platforms, Earth's last line of defense, were engaging, but the swarm had already adapted to their weapons. "We're out of time," General Williams said grimly. "Dr. Chen, whatever your idea is, we need it now." Dr. Chen looked at the Zarlak representatives. "I need direct access to your ship's communication systems. We're going to hack the Vorax network." Captain Zarlak blinked all four eyes in surprise. "Hack? What does this mean?" "It means," Dr. Chen said with determination, "that we're going to teach these machines what happens when they mess with humanity." As the Vorax began their final approach to Earth, humanity prepared to make its last stand, not with physical weapons, but with something the mechanical swarm could never adapt to: human ingenuity. Dr. Chen worked frantically at the lunar base, her fingers flying across the alien interface as Captain Zarlok watched in amazement. A team of Earth's best programmers joined remotely from the command center, all focused on one desperate plan. The Vorax network operates on quantum principles, Dr. Chen explained as she worked. They communicate instantly across vast distances. It's how they adapt so quickly: what one learns, they all learn. But that means... Captain Zarlok began to understand. Yes, Dr. Chen nodded. If we can inject our own signal into their network, it would spread to all of them at once. On the tactical display, the situation grew increasingly dire. The Vorax had broken through the orbital defenses and were beginning to enter Earth's atmosphere. Cities worldwide initiated emergency evacuations, though everyone knew there was nowhere to truly hide from such an enemy. "We've isolated their communication frequency," announced one of the programmers. "But we need a way to break into their network. We need a Vorax unit," Dr. Chen realized. "A captured one we can use to access their network." General Williams's voice came through the communication system. "That's suicide. How would we capture one without it self-destructing?" A new voice joined the conversation, Admiral Chen from the command ship in Earth orbit. "We don't need to capture one. We need to trick one." He paused. "And I think I know how." The plan was desperate, perhaps even foolish, but they had no alternatives left. Using the modified Zarlak technology, they would create a false signal mimicking a new Vorax unit, a Trojan horse to infiltrate the enemy network. "The signal needs to be perfect," Captain Zarlok warned. "The Vorax will detect any anomaly. Then we'll make it perfect," Dr. Chen said with determination. "Your people provide the technological knowledge, we'll provide the deception." Working together, the human-alien team created a complex quantum signal that mimicked a Vorax scout ship. Into this signal, they embedded a carefully crafted disruption code, one designed to exploit the rigid programming of the mechanical swarm. "It's ready," Dr. Chen announced after hours of frantic work. "But we have one problem: we need to broadcast it from inside their formation. Our transmission range isn't strong enough to reach their whole network otherwise." Silence fell across the communication channels. Broadcasting from within the Vorax swarm meant certain death for whoever delivered the signal. "I'll do it," Admiral Chen said finally. "My ship is already in position above the Pacific. We're damaged but still maneuverable." "John, no!" Dr. Chen cried out, forgetting military protocol in her distress. "There has to be another way." "There isn't time, Sarah," her brother replied calmly. "The Vorax are already targeting major cities. Millions will die in the next hour if we don't stop them." General Williams reluctantly approved the mission. "Godspeed, Admiral." The damaged human flagship changed course, accelerating directly toward the heart of the Vorax formation that hovered above Earth. Enemy fire immediately concentrated on the lone ship as it plunged into their midst. "Initiating transmission," Admiral Chen reported, his voice steady despite the explosions visible behind him. "Signal broadcasting on all frequencies." The Vorax nearest to the human ship paused, as if confused by the strange signal they were receiving. Then, one by one, they began to stop moving. "It's working," a technician shouted. "The disruption is spreading through their network." On screens worldwide, people watched as the Vorax swarm froze in place. Their perfectly coordinated movements became erratic, then ceased entirely. "Admiral Chen, report status," General Williams demanded. There was no response. "Dar." Chen covered her mouth with her hand, tears streaming down her face. Captain Zarlok placed a four-fingered hand gently on her shoulder in a gesture of shared grief. Before anyone could speak, the tactical display updated. The Vorax ships were moving again, but differently. Instead of their coordinated swarm behavior, they were moving randomly, colliding with each other, some spinning out of control. "The code worked," Dr. Chen whispered through her tears. It disrupted their hive mind. Without their perfect coordination, the Vorax became easy targets for Earth's remaining defenses. Military forces worldwide opened fire on the confused machines, destroying them by the hundreds. Some of the Vorax managed to reboot their systems and began to retreat, fleeing back toward the outer solar system. But the majority were destroyed or disabled before they could escape. 3 days later, representatives from Earth and the Zarlak gathered on the lunar base to discuss their future. "Your brother saved both our worlds," Captain Zarlak told Dr. Chen solemnly. "The Zarlak will never forget his sacrifice." Elder Moltic stepped forward. "We came to you desperate and hopeless. We offered our technology in exchange for protection. But you gave us something far more valuable, you showed us that peace does not have to mean helplessness." General Williams nodded. "And you showed us that technology doesn't have to be a weapon. Together, we've accomplished what neither of our species could alone." "The Vorax that escaped will eventually return," Captain Zarlak warned. "They'll adapt to our disruption code. But now we know they can be defeated. Then we'll be ready," Dr. Chen said with new determination. Earth and the Zarlak, working together. The alliance was formalized the next day. Earth would help the Zarlak rebuild their civilization on one of Jupiter's moons, while the aliens would share their advanced technology with humanity. Together, they would prepare for the Vorax's eventual return. As the first Zarlak settlement was established on Ganymede, Elder Moltic stood beside Dr. Chen, watching the construction. "When we sent our desperate plea across the stars," the Elder said quietly, "we hoped only for protection. We never imagined finding true allies." "Humanity has a saying," Dr. Chen replied. "Sometimes the most unlikely friendships are the strongest." Word of the Human-Zarlak alliance spread across the galaxy. Other alien civilizations, some also suffering under Vorax attacks, began to send their own transmissions to Earth. The desperate aliens had sent a final plea to humanity, and humanity's response had not only saved them but had changed the course of galactic history. In the memorial garden on the lunar base, a statue showed a human and a Zarlak standing side by side, looking toward the stars. The inscription beneath read, "Different in form, united in purpose. The alliance that saved 2 worlds." And in the darkness of deep space, other desperate species began to hope again as they heard the story of how humanity had answered the call.